All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. It is about time. And I don't know if I want a big, huge sigh of relief or a humongous wow, but doesn't this evening feel like it was a long time in the making? Woo! So welcome to the 2021 CENTRL Celebration. We have the special honor of welcoming people online for the very first time. So thank you to each of you who have joined us, and we're also recording this so that we can make it available again in the future. My name is Scott Koenig, and I'm a graduate of Class 21 from Project CENTRL. And this is the year of 2021. And just like I said, we have so much to celebrate. As you get seated, please enjoy your salads. We're not going to really stop for much this evening. We're just going to keep the program flowing. So as you finish your salads, I'll bring some main courses. Feel free to keep eating. We've got a lot of exciting things to share with you tonight. So one of our longtime trainers, Randy Frazier, he's a graduate of the Arkansas Rural and Agricultural Leadership Program. He gives a talk every year called "You Can Keep the Change." It embodies the aspirational hope that we have for each of you as you go through Project CENTRL, that you experience a change within you and that you keep it a part of yourself as you move forward. Well, over these past 24 months, since we've gathered together like this in a large group, we as an organization have gone along with some changes as well. And we're going to keep those changes. So how many of you in here knew that our name, Project CENTRL, was actually an acronym? Raise your hand. All right, pretty good. You've been paying attention. I like it. So we reclaimed that name and updated our logo for the first time since 1983. Throughout tonight's program, we'll see, hear, and experience how we're keeping the change, in Randy's word, while honoring our heritage. So, as the Arizona Center for Rural Leadership, this name and this logo that you see on the screen now is really the umbrella organization for all of our branded programs. We have 3 of them, and I'd like to start with sharing with you about Make a Difference. Now, for some of you alumni out there, whether you're online or here in the room, this might have a different title for some of you. It might be internship, it might have been project, or it might have been shoot that thing, I gotta hurry up and get done before I can graduate. So now in the current program, we use this as a way to partner across the class. They have to find an opportunity in rural Arizona. They have to research and then propose a solution. We include topics that we know we're going to cover in our curriculum, like healthcare and education, water resources, and food safety. But then we also allow for some self-identification of projects that are both timely and important to the participants in the program, like multiple use of public lands, as well as law enforcement and community relations. Tonight, you're going to see videos from the top 3 Make a Difference projects from class 28 and 29. And you're going to get a chance to vote on the winner. So whether you're online or you're here in the room, you get to participate in that and select the winner tonight. So you're going to be celebrating along with us. Whether you're online or whether you're here in the room, we hope you eat. As I said, just eat, enjoy your dinner, enjoy your drinks. We're going to keep this flowing. And let's go ahead and start with our very first Make a Difference project presentation, and we'll watch that on the screen together.
Good morning, and thank you for your time and attention today. I'm Scott Pilchard. I'm an advisor with Farm Bureau Wealth Management in Scottsdale, Arizona, and appreciate the opportunity to speak with the Town of Centralville Broadband Task Force. We understand you've been recently formed to tackle some of the challenges of limited or no broadband service in your community, and we're here to help. We're going to be presenting some initial recommendations, but we are going to keep our comments brief in the interest of time, and we will certainly allow some time for questions at the end. So I don't need to go into the details of how the pandemic and COVID have wreaked havoc on our towns, our state, our country, and the world. There's been so many negatives that there are too many to list. However, there has been a positive example of something that has risen from the ashes of the pandemic, and that is telemedicine. Like many technology enhancements, it's increased efficiency, lowered cost, and created greater access for many Americans to access healthcare in a manner that they never could before. However, in many of the tribal and rural communities, they didn't see the benefits. When we surveyed your Centralville residents, many said, we've never been able to access telehealth because we don't have broadband. Others laughed at the question. It not only helps patients take care of themselves in a more efficient manner, it makes doctors and their practices more efficient. So we decided to do something about it. We came together in the winter of last year. Yes, in Show Low, Arizona, we work to make the connection between broadband access and healthcare. And we're going to spend time today talking about solutions, not describing the broadband problem. Having been in the back of the room today, many of our predecessors have more eloquently described that situation, and I don't think that's the part you're looking to us for. That problem is readily apparent. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brenton Colburn.
Hi, I'm Brenton Colburn. I'm with Foothills Bank. I'm an ag industry specialist. I spend a majority of my time out in the fields with farmers and growers in the state of Arizona, and you'd be surprised at how many of them cannot even send me financial statements or applications, let alone take advantage of medical health or treatment that's needed. In the Yuma area specifically, I had two growers. These two companies, they account for more than 40 million in revenues in the produce and farm communities. And their families could not even scroll online and go shopping on their phones, let alone take advantage of what medical help is needed and out there. They were frustrated by it, just like many of you are. And as a result, they decided to take it upon themselves to create a fast internet service of their own. They met with a communications expert. He explained to them exactly what's needed, what equipment was needed, and the process to do this. They started this journey with his guidance. They came together and they learned that the first thing they needed was fiber. Now, what's fiber? Fiber are cables that are better at transferring data than our traditional copper cables. Fiber runs in more areas than expected. And a trip to the county offices will provide you with maps showing where all this fiber is located in your county. They went, they visited, they saw where the fiber was, and coincidentally, some of it ran directly right across some of their land. They obtained permission to stub into that fiber. They then trenched from the fiber on their land all the way to where they were going to place a tower. So they trenched that all the way across and created a tower. They put the tower there, and in this case, the tower was 80 feet tall, strategically placed so it's not blocked by hills, mountains, trees, and even the evaporation of water from the local canals can disrupt that wireless signal. They've learned all this through their communication expert and some trial and error on there. The total material cost of a tower is about $8,000. Now, the final step, once this fiber is connected to the tower, was gaining access to bandwidth. The bandwidth they get from a provider, and they connect that to the antenna, and that's what sends out the wireless signal. Once this was completed, they had 30 customers in 3 days with fast internet service, faster than many of the areas, even in the town right next to them in Yuma. And it provided a lot of relief. It helped them not only with education, shopping for many, for their businesses, but it provided them that access to that telehealth that makes such a big difference. I'm going to turn it over to John now to talk about another way that businesses can gain access to this.
So again, in the winter of last year, Starlink beta launched in several rural communities across Arizona. Starlink, and in the winter of this year, Project Kuiper is supposed to launch and deliver similar type services. Starlink and Project Kuiper are low orbit satellite internet relay service systems. They deliver high-speed internet. Now, what makes this different than previous satellite type internet service providers is that they are 50 to 75 times closer to the Earth. And in doing so, their latency becomes negligent as far as the quality and the capabilities of it. There is a waiting list across several areas in Arizona. We are fortunate that Arizona is one of the areas that they both chose to beta test, but they also realize why. Arizona is a great thing. We have a diverse climate and area that will allow for all types of environmental possibilities to come into play. So while they're beta testing it, they will come into, they will work out all the kinks. This is important that they are also ran by two technology visionaries. The last time we had some sort of two technology visionaries compete against anything, you may have heard of them, one named Bill, another one was named Steve. We ended up with computers on everybody's desks and everybody's phone or home and everybody's pocket. So these individuals have the wherewithal and the capabilities to understand how to start a project of this magnitude from scratch and to see it to an actual realization as opposed to in just theory. Now, these physical constraints, these speeds, and by having a competition in play, this will also do something else. This will also increase the pressure on existing high-speed and marginal speed internet providers to find either new technologies of their solutions or to stand out of the way to allow an usher of this next generation of internet to come through. At this time, in order to talk a little bit more about the dollars and cents of it, I will hand it over to Jeff Hayes.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jeff Hayes. I'm the Acting State Director for USDA Rural Development, and I actually responsible for all the programs our agency delivers across the state of Arizona. And this is a common topic we go through at every community that I encounter, we work with. We've gotten two examples of independent people, businesses, entrepreneurs that have stepped up to fill that gap because they had specific needs. But we also have to look at it as a whole, as a community. And one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit is that approach on a holistic level. So what we've learned a lot of this is that there's service providers or these ISPs that work across the states. Some of them are national, some of them are localized, but they are your conduit. Without going to these more technological adventures, these are your basic normal providers that you have. And the problem is they're all business driven. They want dollars and cents and they want numbers. And what does rural Arizona not have? Population bases, right? So we have to look at this in terms of trying to figure out what mechanics or what incentives are available to bring those service providers in. And one of them is going to be an anchor program that my agency is responsible for, is our rural utility service. And we provide programs in one scenario called Community Connect. It's an incentive to get a smaller community, maybe not as small as your group, but to look at bringing an anchor group in. How do we get a internet to a community by enticing a group by providing $300,000 to get them to come in, kind of greasing the skids a little bit. The problem with that is $300,000 to one of these carriers is nothing, right? That's not an incentive to do, but it is an option. What we recognize in this last year that we need to up the game. And so they created a new program called Reconnect, of course, not too inventive about names, but anyway, but the idea of it is that they're throwing more dollars and cents, loans and grants to bring these out. So obviously the cost of investment is a critical factor in bringing these services to the communities. And so loans are a viable part of it, but at the end of the day, if they're going to be servicing and charging operational costs at an affordable level, they got to lower that debt cost. And so we're installing that with grant dollars. And in Arizona, it's been fairly successful. The problem is getting the collective together to work on it. And that's what we're here today about, is to kind of pull that together and present to you in the concept. So when we look at this thing, there's also now in the last year, more agencies coming together. We have the USEDA, Economic Development Administration. We have Arizona's Commerce Authority, a group that 5 years ago hardly barely existed and survived the budget cuts, is now a flourishing group and a steady partner in bringing internet services. So when we look at this, we're talking about that last mile, getting that internet to those communities. In some cases, they're there, but we're not able to access to it. So we also want to talk about the next side is we've got healthcare providers in the communities. Who are they? What are they doing? How are they accessing it? Maybe in some cases, in the case of Black Canyon City, their medical clinic was right down the street from the fiber optic, but they didn't have the capital to bring that in. So they used one of our facility grants. A simple cost of $70,000, $80,000, they were able to access it and bring it in. So there's this disconnect, right? You've got the major mile, the quarter mile, and now we're also need to look at how do we get from that doctor's office to your home? And that comes back to this telemedicine issues, is that how do we bring these services in there and connect it at a holistic level? But we also want to look at it as the same concept, is that how do we get to the community? Because we have different offices, we have medical clinics, these are all pieces of parts, but there's also a lot of other elements within your community that could benefit. It's like creating an anchor. Get that anchor in place and everybody else starts to follow. So we also want to look at things like, besides of telemedicine, what about STEM programs? We talked about teachers growing in place and staying in our community. Same thing we teach health education and bring programs in like vocational programs. They stay in our community and support the community. This is something that Regional Center for Border Health out of Yuma realized. They had a health issue, right? They have no workers. So they actually started they actually created their own vocational program. This year, they are now expanding that up to La Paz County, and they'll be expanding that program to bring education, health education, and create that workforce again to support their programming. So these are all systemic little things that need to be worked on, but it takes a collective, and that's what we're here to present to you, is the concept is set these ideas in motion to use a task force and see what we can bring together and then present a plan for you. And with that, again, we just have to identify our resources, your partnerships, who in your town is at the table, who's not at the table, and how do we bring them all together and come up with a holistic plan that we think us as consultants can present to you. With that, I'll turn it back over to my counterpart.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for your time and attention this morning. We recognize you're just getting started in your efforts to improve the broadband access and telehealth capabilities for Centralville. We hope that as you continue your work, we've demonstrated our capabilities of some initial observations of programs that have worked in other areas, and we'd love to have the opportunity to continue to work with your organization moving forward. And we'll open it up for questions, please.
Thank you for that presentation. So I guess as these professional consultants have presented today, could you please just let us know really what is it that you want us to do?
Well, use a task, go ahead. Okay, sorry. So use a task force, recognizing that there's opportunities there. And what we're hoping to do is be able to actually bring more information to you to make those decisions as a community to figure out what your aspects are. Because what we find historically is that communities don't know how to connect the dots. And we're trying to do is bring that together, and us as consultants would then help guide you that process and eventually help provide the packaging or assistance to bring those service providers to town.
So my last question is that have you had the opportunity to reach out to our medical universities here in the state, as training for telehealth and telemedicine has become a real important factor in their training as well? I'm just wondering, has there been any collaborative efforts that you're aware of, or are you involved with them at all in any capacity as consultants?
No, there's none that we're involved in currently, and I'm not aware of any that are on there. We haven't taken that step yet. We were focused on solutions to it, but that's a great path to take.
Okay, folks. Again, thank you for the applause for that Make a Difference presentation. You're going to see at least 2 more. I don't operate alone. I like company up here. It's sort of like that English soccer team. You never walk alone. This is it. 16 people going to fit? You're supposed to be close. Okay. Hi, I'm George Separich. I'm chair of the Arizona Center for Rural Leadership. And frankly, I'm here with my board colleagues to welcome you to this evening. As Scott said so well, it's been a long time in coming. Now, we've gone around the state and talked to individuals and introduced our logo and talked about our new name and all that. And the first question we get invariably is, what happened to Project Central? Project Central hasn't disappeared. It is still the name of our leadership program. It's simply going to have a new logo. It is still going to be the premier leadership program, we think, in the state of Arizona. And we're going to, basically, it's a flagship of our program. We intend to sort of keep it that way. I am up here on stage to formally welcome 16 people of class 30 who are going to sort of carry forward the tradition of Project Central. And in that tradition, someone has a microphone who will start. We'd like to have your name, your city, and your employer. Go.
Yo soy Santiago Quechamalia. Buenas tardes, buenas noches y bienvenidos. Good evening. My name is Rafael Tapia. I live in Goodyear, Arizona, and I work for an organization called Partnership with Native Americans.
Good evening. My name is Eric Norton. I live in Chandler, Arizona. I work in Casa Grande for Arizona Grain.
Hi, my name is Shavonda. You can also call me Chevy. I live in Casa Grande, where I work for the Pinal County Cooperative Extension for the U of A.
Hi there, Michael Sarand. I work at the University of Arizona Water Resources Research Center in Tucson, Arizona.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bree Cadlick. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I work for the Arizona Rock Products Association.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you. My name is Craig McGinnis. I'm from Tempe, Arizona. I work with the Arizona Department of Water Resources on Colorado River issues.
Good evening. My name is Tim Bolby. I'm from Wilcox, where I currently serve as the vice mayor, and I also work for Valley Telecom Group.
Good evening. My name is Krista Benavides. I am from Wilcox, Arizona. I am a realtor. I work for Tierra Antigua Realty. I'm also a board member for our local Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, my name is Regina Ortega Leonardi. I am from Globe, Arizona, Gila County, and I'm with the Kathy Sanchez Cañas Memorial Foundation.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tate Hoisington. I'm from Safford, Arizona, and I'm a partner in Open Loop Energy.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wagner, based in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I dedicate my energy toward grants that go the distance, LLC.
Good evening, my name is Esmar Hernandez. I live and work in Yuma, Arizona for Don Pearson Engineering and Construction.
Good evening. My name is Monica Timberlake. I am a realtor for Valley of the Sun Real Estate. I live in Quartzsite, Arizona, and I am also on the Quartzsite Elementary School Board and the Arizona State School Board Association Board of Directors.
Hello, I'm John Howard. I live in Tucson and I work for the University of Arizona and teach at the James E. Rogers College of Law.
Hello, I'm Ian McGahey. I live in Yuma and work for Yuma County.
This feels like the Miss America pageant. My name is Regina Toomey. I'm from Yuma and I work for APS.
Up here. Hold your applause for a second over here, simply because they're here as an example of the other part of our program. We could not be one of the few tuition-free leadership development programs in the United States without the help of our sponsors and partners. And tonight I want to recognize 2 of them. In fact, some of them are being employed over here. And the first one is basically the University of Arizona, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and their Cooperative Extension Service. And we're honored by the fact that we happen to have Dr. Shane Burgess, who is both Dean of that college and Vice President of the University. Please recognize him. By the way, 3 of your employees were not at work today. So you know, you at least know where they were. Okay, it's part of your donation. And I would be remiss if I don't take the time to recognize another organization for whom we are thoroughly thankful for their generosity, and that's the Kemper and Ethel Marley Foundation. They were sort of the spark for this particular program, as well as the lead group that encourages other businesses as well as several hundred individuals to contribute money to make your tuition free for this activity. So I'd like to have you honor our sponsors, our partners, and welcome Class 30. Now, if you'd be kind enough to deliver the microphone to them and go enjoy dinner, you're going to have dinner tonight. The rest of us are not. And with that, let's look at the second Make a Difference presentation.
Good morning. My name is Bridget Doherty, and I am a wife of a lieutenant for Phoenix Police, as well as a daughter of a Chicago police officer and a niece of a Chicago police officer. So this is important to me.
I'm Will Lemon. I'm a law enforcement officer for Arizona Game and Fish Department. Most people know us as game wardens.
And good morning, I'm Jan Petruzzi. I'm a conservation planner with the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service.
So good morning. I want to thank the Central Town Council for allowing us to speak this morning on this particular topic, law enforcement and the rural community. Our journey. We hit the road and interviewed many to understand the challenges of communication with communities and the law enforcement, focusing on rural communities. We started with the Homeland Security, which basically is Homeland Defense. And we spoke with Agent Matt Hall. He is a supervisor for Homeland Defense. And he spoke very eloquently about some of the challenges that law enforcement in the community has from a rural perspective. He is actually located in the southwest portion or sector of the state and works within Yuma and on the Tohono reservation. So his overall arching comment was communication. Let alone the fact that during these conversations, he spoke very highly of the chief of police for Oro Valley. And Oro Valley, for those of you that are not familiar, is actually a suburb of Tucson. And they are highly known in the community all throughout the state for being engaged in their community. So we sat down and we spoke one-on-one with that chief of police, Kira Riley. And lastly, which once again, the whole conversation about communication was we spoke with Sholo, chief of police, sat down and spoke with him several times, and that would be Joe Riley, Chief Joe Riley. So we had sent out a questionnaire. We had polled, knowing that we had spoken to law enforcement, we wanted to be very engaged. Now we know that law enforcement, this is a hot topic today. I guess everybody in this room would understand why in the last several years, this has been most certainly something that has had a visceral response. So we wanted to go out to the community. We had 12 law enforcement personnel respond to this question. What do you believe would make a relationship between law enforcement and the public better? 12 law enforcement personnel responded, and there were several responses, but they just went down into these two categories. A greater understanding of law enforcement and what they actually do and the legal standards that govern those officers, and law enforcement and how it has become the catch-all for many societal issues. 6 non-law enforcement individuals responded, and the most consistent answer was transparency and accountability. So as we worked our way, and I wouldn't say down, but as we worked our way to Sholo Police Department, understanding our rural concept, we had 3 specific questions that we asked each of those individual agencies. And what you're going to see through our presentation is what Sholo Police Department responded. So the first one was, what is the most important disconnect between the Sholo Police Department and the Sholo community? How is the Sholo Police Department focusing on community outreach to reduce the communication gap? And what resources are needed by the Sholo Police Department to remedy this disconnect? So Ideally, working and speaking in many different arenas on this topic for the past several months, the need for communication was not a shock. Chief Shelley spoke about the need to improve effective communication and the need to identify those parts of the community. Sholo is a community that on an average day, 365 days a year, there are 11,300 individuals that live in the town of Sholo. Come summer, that triples. So he needs to be able to identify those communities that come up during the summer and then also identify his community members on a regular day. He also spoke about the department's need to explore social media and bridge that gap. During COVID, this was a significant challenge because some of these opportunities to sit in front of individuals, it was most certainly utilized because of Zoom, but he also had to get back up on social media and start doing Twitter again and get actually more activated and all of his staff more engaged in this particular realm. According to Chief Shelley, the best form of contact is in person, and that's the rural way. Us Flatlanders, he said, don't understand that. And so he wanted to explain that reading facial expressions and establishing a connection is still the way to go. So his recommendation was to reach out to those groups, to those marginalized groups, to those groups that already are within the community, whether it's LGBTQ, our church groups, etc. Those were the ones that he already knew were formed, and he reaches out. But there are new ones that come up during the summer that he also wants to be engaged with.
During our conversations with Chief Shelley and our subsequent interviews, we decided to reach out to the community of White Mountain Apache Tribe in White River. That's a surrounding community. And Chief Shelley mentioned that that was a community that needed more intensive outreach. There are new people moving into the area. We're getting a lot of out-of-staters, in-staters that are moving to our local communities, and they just really don't understand the Native community and the cultures. Biases and stereotypes have existed for years, but a lot of them are good and bad, and we really need to educate the general community and the population so that we can all help and work together. The Sholo Police Department officers, they receive cultural awareness training during their police academy days. Currently, this training is provided every 2 years, but Chief Shelley would like to have this type of training provided each year. But the Sholo Town Council has thrown up a few roadblocks. One, funding. The second is council perceptions. And then the third is manpower to provide this training. This training would include the use of eye contact and shaking hands in rural areas. It's very important to establish connection with the people you're speaking with. We need to teach the facts, not just spread the old stereotypes and the biases that still exist in 2021. Cultural awareness would go both ways, both Native American and other cultures. And Chief Shelley feels that a cross-cultural awareness center in the Sholo White Mountain area is needed. The center would showcase both reservation and off-reservation communities. Every year in the fall, the White Mountain Apache Tribe, they sponsor a tribal fair and rodeo. It's very well attended by both tribal and non-tribal members of the community. There's a lot of people that attend. Neighboring police officers and departments help provide support. This is communities like Sholo, Pine Top, it could be Holbrook, Winslow. We have DPS officers that go down there and assist, and also Navajo County and Apache County Sheriff Departments also assist in this endeavor. Chief Shelley actually rides the Apache officers, and what they do, instead of arresting intoxicated fairgoers that are having just a little bit too much of a good time, they actually give them a drive home. This helps establish community trust. It shows that, you know, there's a partnership between the Apache, non-Apache police departments, and it's a good involvement. It develops trust. And Chief Shelley was telling us he always likes to ride along with the Apache officers, and there's other events on the reservation also, and they also have this together, working together feature, which is great. It's a good partnership between the two. And also Chief Shelley says it's really important to be seen in the community. Don't just drive through White River and say it's done. You need to get your face out there, stop at the youth center, over to the fire department, go stay over at Bash's shopping center, talk to people, introduce yourself, establish trust, get that rapport out there, and establish a good connection.
So who to best establish or prevent this communication gap? It would be a public relations specialist or a PIO, someone that works strictly for the police department and no other department, so that they can focus on law enforcement. They would develop relationships with every level of the community. So the snowbirds that come in the summer and the residents that are there year round. They would connect with the younger people and the older people and some of those other groups that we spoke of earlier. Chief Shelley said that officers have two different mindsets. A PIO, someone that's dedicated to public relations, would be able to go between warrior and guardian mindset. The warrior mindset is if there is a threat to a police officer, that we need to take action to that threat and stop that threat. The guardian mindset is one of helping the public and assisting the public in rendering aid in whatever way we can, and assisting it in whatever way we can. It's a nicer mentality, but it's something that officers have to have. We have to have the warrior mindset and the guardian mindset to keep the community safe and officers themselves safe. The PIO would represent both mindsets. The PIO would go to different hubs within the community, like we were talking about before, LGBTQ, the Latino communities, and the Native American communities. They would act as an ambassador to these groups, and they would do TV interviews, podcasts, and local radio stations. They would also talk about stories that are positive about law enforcement, not just writing citations and arresting people, but there's other work that law enforcement do as well. If you can throw the video. With Game and Fish, every once in a while we have interesting interactions with wildlife. This elk that you see in the background had an arrow stuck in it from archery season of the previous year. The elk was in a campground near the Grand Canyon, and Game and Fish, my department, we went out and we were able to tranquilize this elk and remove the arrow. And within 5 minutes of the tranquilizer wearing off, it was up and feeding again. There were lots of people around this campground. It's open half of the year, and campground hosts actually knew this elk from being captured before, from getting tangled up in a swing set. But these are stories that we should highlight as law enforcement officers throughout the state and throughout the country of things that we are doing that are besides just writing citations and arresting people. These stories that not everyone gets to see, that everyone likes wildlife, everyone likes seeing people help wildlife. So highlighting those kinds of things can help, and that's what a PIO would do. So what are we asking? So with the PIO at Sholo, they had previous military intelligence experience and public relations experience. So they were able to bridge the gap between the warrior mindset and the guardian mindset, and able to relate to both types of people, the police officers and citizens. So the candidate that we would need to look for in Central Town is someone that has community understanding, is able to learn and engage the community. They're able to perform trust or build trust with police officers and the public. And what we found from talking to Sholo Police Department and some other departments in rural communities is that their pay range would be $45,000 to $55,000 a year. A total cost with benefits with benefits and retirement would be around $104,000 to Central Police Department. So what we're requesting from Central Town Council is that you allow Central Police Department to hire a PIO. Like I said before, their salary would be $45,000 to $55,000 a year and $104,000 total cost to the department. Hiring this PIO would help bridge the communication gap for the normal citizens to understand what police officers do on their day-to-day routines. 78% of law enforcement agencies are in rural communities. So if we were able to do this throughout the country in rural communities, hiring PIOs, this would really help bridge the gap of law enforcement and the communities and build a positive effect throughout the country.
Have you had any buy-in that there would be some joint funding? Have you gotten, are they equally interested in crossover, and is there any funding mechanism where they might be supportive of that as opposed to just coming to this council?
Do you want me to answer that? So speaking to Special Agent Matt Wall, when we were talking in January, he had said that the Bureau of Indian Affairs has a significant pot that they would call pot of gold, essentially, that there was a lot of opportunity to be able to invest in some of these things and be able to, you know, kind of transfer some of the funds for some of these smaller communities that are around the Tana Onam reservation. That might very well work when we're looking at being able to assist with a PIO in some of those areas, if that answers your question.
Second Make a Difference project.
Let me stand behind you.
So thank you very much. And again, reminder, you'll get a chance to vote for your favorite, AKA the best of this year, in just a few minutes. So earlier, all of the teams from class 28 and class 29 had to make a presentation. And it was really hard work for the board of director judges that made the selections to make these top 3 teams. It was definitely a difficult task, and I can tell you that every member of class 28 who joins me on stage right now worked hard to put to use the skills they built, the knowledge they gained, and the network that they built over their extended time in Project Central. So I've come up with a phrase to describe you all, and it's actively patient. So as you can see in this picture, we were meeting with the Secretary of State in March of 2020 when she left our meeting, came back in and said, I just had to sign an executive order from the governor that you'll hear about tomorrow. And then tomorrow the state shut down. So that did not stop them. They went back to their communities. They got active in addressing COVID-19 in each individual appropriate way that was important for their families and their communities. And they patiently waited for class 29 to join them in Washington, DC, a little over a month ago. So it's with great honor and a lot of pride that I share with you the graduates of class 28. And if you'll step forward when your name's announced, we have Gladys Anaya from Somerton and with Arizona Western College Foundation. Chris Auza from Yuma, the Barclay Company of Arizona. Keith Barth from Sonoyta, a Santa Cruz County judge. Christina Boyd from Casa Grande, Electric District number 3. Joey Doms from Flagstaff, USDA and RCS. Kathy Dixon is from Mesa and she's a professor at ASU. David Edmonds is from Tempe and he's formerly with the Arizona Cotton Research and Protection Council. Kayleen Gottwald is from Yuma with Pacific Steel. Brad Kuiper from Buckeye, the land agency. Santana Nez from Winslow, a tribal agricultural consultant and a member of the inaugural U of A Vet Medical School. Ellen Parrish from Mormon Lake, an EMT and community organizer. Christina San Boyd, I already said you. Megan Scott from Yuma, Noble Law. Stephanie Teskey from Mayor, the Arizona Department of Agriculture and Dugas Ranch. James Walter from Gilbert with the Salt River Project. And Kristana Watkins from Sierra Vista, Cochise County Attorney's Office. Congratulations, class 28. You now have made a difference with Project Central. And let's see our final Make a Difference presentation.
My name is Stephanie Teskey. I'm a livestock officer for the Arizona Department of Agriculture, and I'm also a 6th generation rancher from the Dugas and Sycamore ranches. Impacts of recreation affect my life both personally and professionally. It's something that I have to deal with. I live in a very rural area, so I have to coexist with a lot of recreators. That means UTV riders, campers, hunters, hikers, you name it, it's public land and we share it. And our ranches coexist with that. In addition, with my professional capacity, we receive a lot of law enforcement complaints regarding recreation and some of the negative impacts that we face. And we'll get into some more details there about what exactly I'm talking about, specific cases there. And I can say that within the last year, our call volume for recreation-related crime has almost tripled. A lot of that being due to COVID. This was an issue that Ellen and I had talked about before COVID. We started our project before that happened. And then when everybody kind of got locked down, they started utilizing public land even more. So I'll let Ellen introduce herself and we'll move from there.
So my name's Ellen Parrish and I'm a resident of Mormon Lake. And like Stephanie said, this issue of recreation affects us both personally, and I'm sure all of you are feeling the effects in your rural communities as well. In my role as Vice President of Diablo Trust, I'm directly interacting with ranchers in the Mormon Lake area. As my volunteer work as an emergency medical technician, our call volume and the severity of our calls has just blown up over the last year for sure, but we've been seeing increases over the last several years. I'm the organizer of the Mormon Lake Advisory Group, in which I bring together elected officials, county officials, and community members to address issues that are specifically related to our small community of Mormon Lake. And as a commissioner for the Coconino County Parks and Rec Department, of course, recreation is our major issue, and we're dealing with higher use and greater impact there as well. So some of the common issues that we're seeing, like I said, the severity and the variety of emergency calls that we're seeing in our rural areas. Unfortunately, this picture is the result of speed and careless driving. This UTV was loaded with 7 individuals. Most of them were children, all seriously injured. Some of these accidents are so remote that we can't get ambulances to these people. We're utilizing helicopter services more and more. And those folks are collaborating with us and can corroborate that their call volume and the severity of their calls is greatly increased over the last 12 to 16 months. The second picture shows what we're seeing more and more. Trash left behind by people who are recreating. You're all aware, rural waste disposal, you know, we don't all have waste management that shows up to our front door. In a lot of areas, waste management isn't coming and emptying the dumpster at all. Dumpsters aren't an option. We're using county transfer stations or hauling the the trash long distance to the dump.
So here's some more common issues that we see. For example, that first picture, people don't think that they have to stay on the road. So they just drive wherever they want. And the problem with what that happened there, you said, oh, well, just one person drove through there. Now that one person has driven through there, everybody that comes down there thinks that's a road. And before too long, now that becomes an established trail or road that wasn't supposed to be there. It damages habitat for wildlife. It destroys grass, native plants, and whatnot. The second picture, I don't know if you noticed right off the bat, but something's not quite right with that bottom cow. She has an arrow through her head. I think that a black cow doesn't look anything like an elk or a deer to me, so that's pretty obvious that it was intentional. Ranchers really struggle with this one. Most of our call volume at the Department of Agriculture with crime-related recreation stuff is vandalism to livestock and livestock loss. We find countless cattle just shot, and the problem is the Arizona Department of Agriculture only has 8 officers for the entire state. So when we get those calls, we're stretched pretty few and far between, and this happens in really remote areas. And you consider the loss, you know, that one heifer, she did have to be euthanized. That was up around the Payson area. The rancher had to find her and humanely euthanize her. And the value associated with that animal is not just her own value, but the value of the calves that she'll have in the future. Here's another example of some other issues that we see on public land. You see that these petroglyphs have been tagged. That it's hard to put a price on that kind of damage. And then you see this dirt road that is typically passable. People like myself, and I'm sure many of you live down dirt roads, and that's my access in and out of my home and how I get to work. And when people treat it like that, I mean, now I need 4-wheel drive to get in and out of my home. And here you can see, I know specifically out at Dugas where I live, this isn't where this picture is, but the traffic, it's like the Daytona 400. I mean, they're going 1,000,000 miles an hour through residential areas. Cattle get hit, horses get hit, people get hit on the roads all the time. There's the dust pollution. This affects wildlife. It disturbs the wildlife, livestock alike. And then you see this other picture where gates get left open. And you consider the time that it's going to take. If there's animals that are supposed to be in that pasture, that may be their only water. Somebody leaves the gate open, the animals get on the wrong side of that road. The gate gets closed later, and they may not have access to water, and you're going to be in big trouble. And like I said, with the big scapes of land that we're dealing with, it's hard to keep an eye on that much land when there's only a few of you.
So we went to work on this issue, not because it was a Project Central assignment, but because it affects us both personally, daily, and it couldn't wait. So we took our COVID break and we all went home. Stephanie and I stayed hard at work with this recreation working group. We've put together a diverse collaborative group of state, federal, and local agencies, representatives. We currently have over 18 different agencies, organizations, and ranchers and private citizens, including businesses and local fire departments. We're currently having bi-monthly meetings on Zoom. We learned how to do that really quickly. And we're planning a recreation summit for August 12th, where we will have all our agency personnel, our local citizens, our ranchers, our recreators come together and present the data that we've collected. With a large questionnaire went out in early this year, asking our collaborators what are the issues they're dealing with in their individual jobs and what can be done to help them. So can this working group bring together some resources that can help solve this problem? So that summit will happen August 12th of 2021. I'd love to see you all there if you can come up to Flagstaff. We're hoping our goal is that this recreation working group is a pilot program and creates a format for something that can be implemented across the state and then hopefully across the Southwest. Neither Stephanie and I have the time or energy to spin our wheels and create something that only solves our own problems. We're interested in addressing this on a larger issue and solving problems throughout the Southwest.
So some of the challenges that we face is enforcement issues. So like a lot of what we've talked about, it's already illegal. That's not the problem. But there's a lot of interagency communication issues. For example, the Arizona Department of Ag doesn't always talk to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office doesn't always talk to Arizona Game and Fish. And there's a lot of different jurisdictions there. So that moves on to that, where the Game and Fish can cite for certain violations, whereas the Arizona Department of Agriculture specializes in livestock related crime. And a lot of these recreation issues are more than that. With the sheriff's departments, they don't always know that the Department of Agriculture even exists or who to call for cases like this. When they see a shot cow or a fence that's been cut, they don't really know how to address it. Like I talked about earlier, it's a big staffing issue, especially the Department of Agriculture is very short-staffed as far as law enforcement officers are concerned. I know Game and Fish is a similar situation, and the sheriff's office is even more strapped because they've got all of the metropolitan areas within their jurisdiction, and you're talking about some of these rural areas where it could take them several hours to get in and out to take a report on that. They don't always have the resources to actually access these areas. A lot of them are 4-wheel drive. These are places that people are taking the UTVs that you may not be able to get a passenger car into, or a patrol vehicle for that matter. And then there's a lot of training issues like we talked about. With livestock related crime, it's not very commonly known with the sheriff's department or with Game and Fish. And then same with the Game and Fish violations, that's a more specialized law enforcement. So some of the possible solutions to address that is I'm putting together an AZ Post class. All police officers in the state of Arizona are required to have an AZ Post certification. So we've got standardized training. So I'm putting together an AZ Post class to provide to multiple agencies to kind of collaborate that interagency communication.
So moving forward, we're at the point where we're starting to meet with statewide organizations to promote consistent messaging and consistent education throughout the state. That's been identified as one of the major problems, that different areas in the state and different agencies in the state have different laws and different messages related to recreation. Working in conjunction with the Arizona Trail Association, we hope to create an ambassador program because the data shows that peer-to-peer, face-to-face contact with someone who recreates like you do is the best way to modify behavior. So law enforcement plays a role, but getting hikers out on the trails that can share information about how to dispose of your waste. And for the OHV community, what roads are acceptable to drive on, what areas are closed, and why. There's a discussion about legislative solutions, of course, and that will develop over time, I'm positive, but that's just one component. Consistent messaging, educational materials, community-based outreach are going to be the key here. Funding from the state parks and OHV is, they have got a lot of money and less people applying for that money, so that they've already volunteered to help out and pay for a tremendous amount of signage and printed material to launch this program.
So what we need to move forward from this, like we talked about the legislative solutions, a lot of these laws are really restrictive. And there needs to be some work done to fix those to help law enforcement officers actually be able to pursue these cases and be able to charge people with some of these issues. We're not against recreation. We're all about multiple use on public lands, and we enjoy being able to share that. We're all conservationists and ranchers and recreators ourselves and enjoy that and want to just protect public lands for many generations to come so that everybody can utilize them in a safe way that benefits everybody.
Thank you. We'll take your questions.
Marvelous, thank you. We've taken your words to heart.
All
What you wanna do
right.
here. You know what I mean?
Now is
Marvelous.
your
Glad you played
chance.
a billionaire.
So you get to pick the winner as promised. So there's two ways that you can do this. The instructions are up on the screen, and you can either visit pollev.com/central, and then you'll just click on the one that you want to vote for, or you can text the number 22333. You do one text that says Central, and it'll let you back a text that says welcome to my poll with Central. And then you can text one of these words, just the ones in caps. Telemed for the first video that you saw, law for the second video that you saw tonight, or land for the third video that you saw tonight. So we'll bring these up again. But first, I want to share with you a little bit about those who are joining me on stage right now. This is class 29. Yes, woo, give yourselves a round. So my word and phrase for them is flexibly dedicated. Class 29 signed up for Project Central during a period of uncertainty, not just around the nation, not just around the world, but in their lives as well. And still, they prioritize their personal and professional development by dedicating their time to Project Central. And they completed the complete experience, the entire curriculum, in a variety of formats: online, in person, and in hybrid delivery. So we have to work really hard to not call them the only class of Project Central that experienced the snow. So please join me in congratulating class 29. First, from Michael Callahan from Yuma and Gowan Milling. Brenton Colburn from Gilbert, Foothills Bank. Donna Davis from Litchfield Park, Expect More, Arizona. Bridget Doherty from Gilbert with Make-A-Wish, Arizona. Regina Haycock from Page, Salt River Project. Jeff Hayes from Prescott, USDA Rural Development. Kim Kerr Despain from Thatcher, San Carlos High School. Shalise Largent from Camp Verde, Diamond L Ranch. Will Lemon from Parks with Arizona Game and Fish. Kathy Martinez from Casa Grande with the U of A Cooperative Extension. John Perry from Yuma, Imaginary Friends Design Studios. Jan Pertruzzi from Pine Top Lakeside with USDA and RCS. Scott Pilchard from Carefree with Farm Bureau Wealth Management. Ashley Shimke from the Arizona Department of Education. Congratulations, class 29. And Heather, yeah, go ahead and take your seats. Thank you very much.
Give them just a minute. Congratulations, class of 28 and class of 29. I'm Heather Floyd, class 22, chair of the CENTRL Alumni Committee. And on behalf of the 650 plus alumni that our committee represents, let me be the first to welcome you to the ranks of Alumni in Action. We're glad to have you. As another reminder, we are still doing the voting on the Make a Difference project. Text CENTRL to 2233 to join, then text either land, telemed, or law to choose your selection on the vote. For the past 24 months, the Alumni Committee has had a couple challenges as well, and we've done some pivoting. We started off by hosting county virtual meetings for the first time, and the purpose of that was to get our alumni cross-communicating through classes. I had many people in Cochise County that were not in my classes that I didn't know, and it was great to meet them virtually online and hopefully forge some new connections. We also used that opportunity to recruit and think about who we wanted to have in our next class from our local communities. We did host one traditional CRC in Flagstaff, and over the next year, we are planning on hosting 2 traditional CRCs. The first one will be this fall at Fort Huachuca, and that one will be focused on conservation. The second one will be Casa Grande, and we're going to be focusing on water. And we have a unique opportunity that we're looking at for a weekday CRC at Luke Air Force Base. So just keep in tune, keep looking for our events and getting the notices, because we have some great stuff coming up. And lastly, we're going to be back here in person next year and bringing back our alumni awards when we're not limited by capacity. And keep tuned, because we are looking at adding a new category to that as well. So a lot of exciting things. Our job on the Alumni Committee is to look for ways to keep you networked, to keep the recruiting going, and to support the mission of the Arizona Center for Rural Leadership. Thank you all for that. We do have one last opportunity for the voting. So please text CENTRL to 2233. Once you join, then text your chosen category, land, telemed, or law. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Heather. Thank you to George. And thank you to everyone that made this amazing evening possible, including my teammates who are sitting in the back, Nikki Key and Tracy Wasson. Thank you so much. This is definitely a group effort, and they help keep all of us in this room on track, and we are forever grateful for that. So, it is now my distinct pleasure to announce the winners of our first ever live competition for the Make a Difference project across 2 classes, having people vote in the room and those of us joining online as well. So the winner of the 2021 Make a Difference competition is, thank you, from class 28, the Public Lands Group. Please join me on stage. Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. Small token of our appreciation. Thank you. Well, let me just say a little bit about them. I am just so appreciative of your voting. I'm so appreciative of the judges selecting this group. They, like it said, they went to work when no one told them to. I never said, hey, keep those projects going. They just did that on their own, and they never asked. They just wanted to do it because I think, as you heard, their passion came through. So this is what Project Central is what it's all about. Getting information, building the skills, building your network, and learning some new information and putting it to work. So Stephanie and Ellen, thank you. Good job.
Scott?
Yes.
In the interest of Project Central, we're not actually finished yet.
No.
And the reason for that is, what you don't know is we had two classes that worked together. They were separated, they got to know each other. In fact, they got to know each other so well, they called themselves Class 57. And they want to recognize tonight 3 people who were instrumental in getting them through these couple of years. So Scott, Nikki, Tracy, where are you? Come on up.
On behalf of Class 28, we all would like to give you a heartfelt thank you for the journey that you took us on over the last 2 years. We couldn't have done it without you all, and we owe a deep gratitude for everything you've done for us. So we all chipped in and got you a little something along with Class 29.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. We also, on behalf of Class 28 and 29, as we're now known, 57, all together, when we look back at the things that went on, the last part of their class, the beginning of ours, so basically our entire class, I describe it as, not only are you guys juggling, keeping us all in track, we are like cats and you have to herd us and move us here and get us there, but it's like juggling that is on fire this year. And you guys have done it, and you've worked together as a team. You have kept us excited and motivated and on track. And I appreciate that, because the dedication that you have to this organization, you believe in Project Central's mission, and it's evident to all of us. Through this year, it would have been a lot easier to just throw our hands in there and say, oh, no. And you didn't at any time, nor did you let us. So we have a couple extra things in. Well, Scott, this box is for you.
Thank you.
But would you open it, please?
Yes. I can't threaten them with you're not graduate.
No, I have a paper sitting down at the table. I'm done.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's a gift certificate to Summit Hut in Tucson. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we have one more, but I would like for you to, I'll trade you. I'll
Okay.
take your box back, or your rock. There's a plaque, and there's some, Michael came up with this, and the wording on that is, well, I want you to read it, please.
I'm happy to do it. All right. Scott Koenig, for providing thoughtful guidance and inspiring us all. The Arizona Center for Leadership. A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage.
That's why I didn't read it.
The courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion. can't look at Nikki and Tracy. To listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent. And that's Douglas MacArthur. In the end, leaders are like eagles. They soar higher than others, and they leave a lasting memory with you. We appreciate the time, effort, and patience. Patience. You have committed to us all throughout this amazing journey. Thank you, class 28 and 29. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you both. Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Wow, well, that did surprise me, George. We'll have to talk afterwards. So thank you. That is truly an honor, and they did hit the nail on the head, in that I have a vested interest in this as an alumni. So I'm always going to care about this organization. But to have adopted in Nikki and Tracy, and for them to hit the ground running, and not just doing the little things, but really, like Kim captured, they care about the mission. So thank you all for being here. Each of you actually bring this mission and this vision to life. And our vision is really simple, that rural Arizona is healthy, vibrant, and sustainable. And as you've seen and heard and experienced tonight, all three of our programs, Project Central, Make a Difference, and our Alumni in Action, are all going strong. And they benefit because of the time and the talent and the treasure that each of you in this room have invested. So thank you for helping us keep the change, as Randy would say, and I hope that you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Good night.